Peptide sounds complicated, right? It sounds clinical, but what it's describing is actually really simple. And it's something that your body is already doing every single day without any help from you. So the most basic version is your body is made up of proteins, and proteins are made of amino acids, and amino acids are building blocks. So you want to think of them like individual Lego bricks. And so when you take a few of those Lego bricks and you connect them in like a specific sequence, you will get a peptide. And so you connect a lot of them and then you get a full protein. And that's genuinely all that a peptide is. It is a short, specific chain of amino acids. And they're actually messengers. So kind of the same as hormones. Their whole job is to travel to a specific place in the body and deliver a specific signal. Welcome back to The Wellness Effect. I'm Lace, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Jensen and Kira, as always. And today I'm super excited because we are talking about peptides. And I promise that this is going to be way more straightforward than you think, but I am really excited. And before we even start, first, I just want to say up front that I am not a peptide expert. I do not see myself as a peptide expert, and I don't even really feel overly confident answering peptide questions, but this is not like a pro-peptide episode. It's also not an anti-peptide episode either. It's really just education, and I think our community really deserves to actually understand this stuff rather than just reacting to it. And so that is my goal today, is to just help people understand what a peptide even is, how it impacts our system. And I'm really going to try to compare it to both supplements and steroids, because I feel like people in their head either think they are one or the other, but they are neither. And so I'm really excited. But before we even start, I want to ask both Kira and Jeb, when you first heard the word peptides, what did you picture? What was your first reaction?
I actually originally heard about it probably 3 years ago when I was doing Christy's Hormone Glow Up program. And she talked about, I think it's called KP7? KP.
There's a lot.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. And I was just, even then, and I will admit, I like to call myself peptide hesitant.
Which I think is good.
I'm like, it's like the vaccine people, they don't like to be called anti-vax. We're just vaccine hesitant. But even then, I was just like, it just didn't land with me. It didn't like fully resonate. And I think I talk about this all the time, is how if you hear about something in the wellness space and you go, then that's totally fine. And you should probably listen to that. And if you hear about it and you're like, fuck yeah, this sounds sick, I want to learn about it, I'm excited, I think you should also take that as a sign. And so that's kind of where I was 3 years ago and kind of still where I'm sitting today. So, but ask me when I'm no longer pregnant or breastfeeding, because you never know.
Yes, that's true.
Yes.
Jeb?
I feel like for me, I probably honestly, I just started seeing posts, and then I feel like I heard about it. Actually, me and you, Lacey, had a conversation because Zach had started them. I'm sure it's fine that I say that. And so that's kind of when it started piquing my curiosity, I would say. And I see information on Instagram, and I wouldn't even say I'm like hesitant. I just don't know enough. And for me, I always think about this with all things in my health. I'm very like, I need other people to try it, which is why I've probably done everything that you guys do, because I need to see that it actually works on other people. And I'm very like, okay, you go ahead, because, and I was talking to another lady about this and she summarized it perfectly. It's like, if I don't know I'm going to get something from it, it is not worth my energy or my effort.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I'm very like, I need to see other people go through it. So I'm just kind of observing right now, and I'm very, very excited to just kind of learn more, Lace, because I know you've gone into it a little bit more, and I'd say I'm like pretty open-minded, but yeah, I am on both sides of Instagram. So it's like, part of me is like, well, I don't know, but I'll bring up my hesitations later on and why, and I'm sure you'll cover them also.
Yeah. And I think that both of those reactions are normal. And I think a lot of people, when peptides came on into their realm, it was because of Ozempic, this like crazy weight loss drug. It kind of seemed like it came out of nowhere and everyone was like, oh my gosh. And then there's other ends where it's like, this is a steroid that people are taking. And so I think the way that peptides have been talked about online has been either really hyped up or really scary. And neither of those versions is actually accurate or helpful. And so today I just kind of want to like clear the air. There's not a whole bunch of hype or fear around my own opinion. It's just a real explanation of like what peptides are, how they work, and why the conversation is so much bigger than just like Ozempic. And a reminder again, I am not an expert. Just want to make that very, very obvious, but I do want to kind of consider this episode as like an episode for beginners or for like peptides for dummies or something like that, because this is really just like
That's the title for sure.
Yeah, peptides for dummies.
Dummies, us.
Yeah, by dummy I mean me. This episode of The Wellness Effect is brought to you by Lifestyle You. If you're listening to this podcast and thinking, okay, this sounds like me, whether it's low energy, hormone imbalances, stubborn symptoms, or you just feel like you've tried everything, Lifestyle You is our root cause coaching program designed to help you actually connect the dots.
We use functional nutrition, personalized support, and functional lab testing to figure out why your body is doing what it's doing, instead of just guessing or slapping a Band-Aid on symptoms.
And because you're a listener of The Wellness Effect, when you use the code Wellness Effect, you'll receive a free functional lab when you join the program. If this episode is resonating with you, make sure to share it with a friend, subscribe to the podcast, and check out the show notes to learn more about Lifestyle You and how to apply.
So let's kind of just start off from scratch, because I think the word itself is where people check out. So peptide sounds complicated, right? It sounds clinical, but what it's describing is actually really simple. And it's something that your body is already doing every single day without any help from you. So the most basic version is your body is made up of proteins, and proteins are made of amino acids, and amino acids are building blocks. So you want to think of them like individual Lego bricks. And so when you take a few of those Lego bricks and you connect them in like a specific sequence, you will get a peptide. And so you connect a lot of them and then you get a full protein. And that's genuinely all that a peptide is. It is a short, specific chain of amino acids. And where it gets kind of interesting is a lot of times peptides in the body aren't just sitting there as building blocks. They're actually messengers. So kind of the same as hormones. They are communicating, and their whole job is to travel to a specific place in the body and deliver a specific signal. And the way that they do that is through something called a receptor. So think of the receptor like a lock on the outside of a cell. The peptide is the key. So when the right key fits the right lock, click, something turns on, a system activates, and the process starts. So peptides are basically the body's way of turning things on or turning them up or telling a specific symptom, like now is the time to heal or to regulate or to repair. That is the whole mechanism. And I think when I was kind of trying to understand this, and especially because we just recorded the endocrine disrupting podcast where it was all about like the hormones and the lock and the key. And so it is very similar to what hormones do because they work in the exact same key and lock system. So hormone like estrogen or cortisol or thyroid, it travels through the bloodstream, finds the specific receptor lock, turns something on, and peptides do the exact same thing. The difference is that hormones tend to work like a master key. So the hormone will kind of travel through the whole body and they will look for their lock. And when they find it, the effects can be pretty broad. And so think about what happens when like cortisol spikes, right? Your heart rate goes up, your blood sugar rises, your digestion slows, your immune system dials down. One hormone, but many different systems responding all at once. Peptides, especially like the therapeutic ones that we're talking about today, they're more like a precision key. So they are designed to fit one very specific lock, one system, one signal. So the rest of the building stays mostly undisturbed. And something worth knowing is that sometimes peptides actually are hormones. So this is a little bit confusing, but insulin is actually a peptide hormone. And then GLP-1 is also the gut hormone that's involved in appetite and fullness. So GLP-1 is the peptide in Ozempic. So Ozempic is the brand, GLP-1 is the peptide. And we actually do produce that peptide in our gut already that helps us regulate appetite and fullness. Fun fact, eating more whole foods will naturally increase your body's own GLP-1, which is interesting, but that GLP-1 is a peptide hormone. And so your body produces them naturally. And so when we talk about therapeutic peptides, we're talking about compounds that are already working with a system that the body already has. We're not introducing something foreign and unknown. So does that make sense?
Yes, I'm doing my best to follow along. So
Yeah.
my question is, with you saying the GLP-1, because I'm approaching this from our listeners, is Ozempic considered a peptide?
Yes.
It is. Okay, I actually didn't know that.
Yeah, because Ozempic is the brand of like the people, because there's like Ozempic and there's Wegovy or whatever. Those are
Yeah.
all GLP-1 peptides. So it impacts your GLP-1 receptor, which
Yeah.
tells your body that you are full. So your appetite goes way down, your
Motility.
gut, your like motility all slows down. And I'm at the end of the episode, I'm going to go through like 5 popular peptides and just kind of talk a little bit about each one. So Ozempic is on that. So we'll get more into that. But yes.
And even like, yeah, Ozempic's like the brand name of it's like Advil, acetaminophen, like, and then, yeah. So, okay, I didn't realize that peptides would have one specific thing that they control. Is it only one, or is it maybe like less than hormones, but not necessarily just
Depends.
one? Or do you know that? Sorry.
No, that's a good question. So it depends. Most peptides are one signal, one response, one key, one lock, one receptor, one thing. But, and I'll talk more about this near
I
the
guess
end
the
when I talk about.
downstream. Sorry.
And well, it's more like the Retatrutide is a tri. So there's 3 signal pathways that impacts, but they're not so many and they're not so common. And a lot of the research on those ones are not where they need to be yet. And obviously, with the more pathways that they hit, the bigger the response could be
Impact.
with different things, changes in the body, because it's kind of like, oh, we're taking a steroid, we're taking a hormone that's going to flood our whole system and it's going to go in any key that it can fit. And so when there's more pathways that are very similar to a hormone pathway, then it can get. But this is getting crazy and we don't
We're
need to go
getting
down
into
that
the
rabbit
weeds.
hole.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
No, that's
Yeah.
okay.
No, that was a good question.
And something else that I want to talk about that's important is peptide levels in our body do just decline as we age. And I don't think a lot of people really understand that. And a lot of the peptides that your body naturally produces start to decline as you get older. So GLP-1 response does weaken. That's just like a known thing. GHK-Cu, which is a peptide involved in collagen and tissue repair, that drops significantly in the blood after your 30s, which is a reason why we start getting wrinkles. And that's a part of the anti-aging process. But that is because that GHK-Cu peptide is way lower. And then growth hormone signaling also slows down. So some of the things we obviously just chalk up to like getting older, just slower recovery, like harder time maintaining weight, healing the things that take longer. But some of that is just actually a decline in the body's own signaling molecules. And it's a big part of why researchers started getting interested in whether you could restore or support some of those signals externally. And when peptides research kind of started, it wasn't really to like cheat the process of like, can we age forever and get these things? It was just more of like curiosity to understand it better. It's like, oh, we do have these signaling molecules that do decline as we age. Is there some way that we can interfere or impact them so they stay consistent? Is that possible? And then that's when they kind of started discovering all of the different parts of peptides and things. So that's kind of how that works. And then now that you kind of understand how peptides work and what they are, I just want to put in some context, because I think one of the reasons people get so confused about peptides is they don't have a framework for where they fit. So are they like supplements? And then on that end of the spectrum, are they like drugs, pharmaceuticals, steroids? And the answer is none of those exactly. But there's a way that kind of makes sense to think about it that really helped everything click for me. And what I like to do when I'm explaining it to people is you almost want to picture them on a spectrum. So one end of the spectrum, you have supplements, and on the other end that you have steroids. So peptides kind of sit right in the middle between those two, and understanding why tells you almost everything that you need to know about them. And so if you think of supplements, that's like giving your body raw materials, right? Magnesium, vitamin D, collagen powder, omega-3s, creatine. You're essentially like stocking the shelves. You're providing the body with things it needs to function well. Supplements don't tell the body what to do with those materials. They just make sure that the ingredients are there. So that's why they tend to have more of like a gentle, gradual effect, because you're supporting the body's existing processes. You're not directing them on what to do. And then also, just to address something quickly, a lot of supplements are technically synthetic. So the magnesium in your capsules was processed in a lab. Most vitamin D3 is synthesized, like lots of supplements are synthetic. And so when people say supplements are natural and peptides are synthetic, like that line is way blurrier than most people even realize, because both are manufactured compounds and the difference is what they do once they're inside you. And so peptides are a step further. Instead of just stocking the shelf, the peptide walks up to a very specific lock, fits a very specific receptor, and turns on a very specific symptom. So it's kind of giving the body instructions, not just materials. And so that's why peptides can create more noticeable effects than most supplements, because they're communicating directly with a pathway rather than just providing support from the sidelines. And that's also why they sit higher on the spectrum, because they do need to be, and they are much more targeted, more potent, more specific, which means they also come with more to understand before using them, because there's kind of like higher risk, higher reward, right? But the key thing, and this is what I kind of want people to take away from this, is peptides are not forcing the body to do something that's unnatural. They're using the body's own key and lock system, and they're sending a signal through a door that already exists, and the body kind of already speaks that language. So it's not like new or different. Well, it's just different. And then steroids are kind of on the far end of that spectrum. And the reason I want to mention them isn't to like scare anyone off. It's just to kind of show the contrast, because it really clarifies what makes peptides different. And so anabolic steroids, they work like a master key. And so they kind of flood the body with a very powerful hormone signal, and the whole system responds to it. It's not like one lock opening, it's many. So your hormonal system, your cardiovascular system, your body's own natural production, all of that reacts to you taking like a steroid or hormones, synthetic hormones. And that's why the side effects are so significant and system wide. And that's why you'll see like hair loss or hormonal suppression or mood changes or cardiovascular strain, because you kind of like opened up a lot of doors you weren't intending to open when you flood the gates. And that's why like birth control, there's so many side effects of birth control, because it's kind of just like, here's all these hormones. And then any door that it like kind of was able to get into, it got into, impacted that system. And then there's like a massive downstream effect. And so a well-targeted peptide opens one door. And that's
Right.
kind of like the main difference.
So where would because obviously it's like, so supplements, and I know this is a nuanced question, but supplements, peptides, steroids is kind of the scale you used. Medication would be like in that steroid realm, just different, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah. And kind of like the more a peptide touches a major hormonal pathway, the more it starts to behave like that master key instead of a precision one. So master key can
Right.
open everything. Precision key for peptide goes directly to the one, which is exactly why some peptides do deserve way more caution and more context than others. And we're kind of get more into that when I talk about growth hormone peptides near the end. But just, yeah, as a general framework, supplements stock the shelves, peptides send a precision message, and then steroids flood the whole entire system. And peptides are always going to sit closer to the supplement end of that spectrum than the steroid end, which I think is really important for people to understand. But yeah.
So wouldn't Ozempic though, or I guess GLP-1s be closer to the, like it would open more pathways, right?
No, because it's directly impacting the GLP-1 signaling, which that it slows down gastric emptying and suppresses your appetite. So that's all
So
that
there
it does.
can be
Okay.
downstream symptoms
Okay,
from
that's what
the-
I'm getting confused by, is
Yeah.
because there's so, but the downstream symptoms are like muscle loss because okay, I get it
of
now.
what comes
got
from
it,
the-
got it.
We'll cover the importance of the foundations.
Yes. No, I was just like really
Yeah.
confusing the one lock with multiple symptoms, side effects, benefits, but that's not how it works.
No, because it's
it
kind of
opens
like
one receptor site.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, you can target that specific thing and you kind of know it's going there, where it's like, oh, if you were going to take birth control, you're kind of like, oh, and I hope it finds its way there and I get the exact reaction that I want. But actually
Right.
in doing that, you're like getting 50 million other negative reactions, where peptide is much more targeted. Of course, there's always side effects
Possible.
that are possible, and usually the side effects that you want if you have the foundations in place. But if you don't, then there's negative side
Please
effects.
listen to this entire episode.
Yes, please
Just
listen to this
FYI.
entire episode. But yeah, and then something too that I just found interesting, again, because I just recorded the endocrine disrupting episode, and then we also did like a presentation with our client only community. So that whole like endocrine system and like how endocrine disruptors come in and they mimic our hormone and they mimic the key, and then they get in and it's this really bad reaction. So I was kind of trying to wrap my head around, well, like if that's what a peptide is doing, it's coming in and it's mimicking this thing, like why is that a good thing, right? And so if they do work by like mimicking signals in your body and fitting locks and activating systems, and that is what endocrine disruptors do. But we know how damaging endocrine disrupting chemicals can be, and they can cause like the hormonal chaos and the thyroid dysfunction and fertility issues. And they do work through a similar key and lock system. But the difference comes down to kind of three things, which is intention and control, and whether the body recognizes what's coming in. And so with endocrine disruptors, so things like BPA and plastics or phthalates or fragrances or certain pesticides, they were never designed to interact with your hormonal system. So they end up there by accident, and their molecule shape is just happens to be like similar enough to a real hormone that the body receptors get confused and lets them in. And once they're in, the body has no idea what to do with them. It can't regulate them the way that it would a real hormone, and it can't clear them on a normal schedule. They just keep sending the wrong signal at the wrong time with no off switch. So it's kind of like a stranger walking into your house, sitting at your desk and sending emails, pretending to be you. And the system, your email, or people on the receiving end, they don't know that they're not supposed to be there. And then that chaos that follows is because the signal makes no sense and nobody can stop it. And because these chemicals are coming in constantly from packaging and products and the environment, the body is getting hit with garbled signals over and over and over again. And that's what creates this hormonal disruption that we talked about. But peptides, or therapeutic peptides, are completely different because they're intentional and they're designed to mimic a signal that the body already produces or to fit a receptor that the body already has. And then they're used in controlled dosages for a specific purpose in a specific period of time. And just like critically, the body knows how to process them because your body makes peptides itself. It already has the tools to like break them down. And then there are enzymes in your body called proteases. Protease. And they're the same one that break down protein when you eat, and then they clear the peptides out on a predictable schedule. So most therapeutic peptides have a relatively short window in the body. They do their job and then they leave. And that's a completely different situation from a synthetic chemical that accumulates and has no exit route. And so if we kind of go back to that house analogy, it's like a therapeutic peptide is like the locksmith that you called in specifically to fix one lock. They come in, they do their job, and they leave. And the house runs the way that it is supposed to. It's not like it's coming in and they're just staying and we don't know who they are. And now I've got a whole bunch of people in my house. And so this does not also mean that all peptides are automatically safe or that like dose doesn't matter. It absolutely does. And some peptides, particularly the ones that influence hormonal pathways, can affect how much of that signal the body produces on its own over time. So that is a real consideration, because obviously we take birth control or we take steroids and then our body, oh, we're getting this, I need to stop producing it. And peptides can have that influence based on the type and based on the dose. So it's like you still have to be worried, but it's just less likely to happen if you know what you're doing and not just blindly doing it.
So at the correct dose, it should help the natural pathways that are already occurring. If you, outside of like, even like with melatonin, if you keep taking melatonin, your melatonin production is going to naturally turn off. So like Lacey said at the beginning, these things happen with supplements that you can purchase like at your grocery store. But
so, I was just going to say like a very easy way to understand that is, instead of taking melatonin as a supplement, a peptide that helps support melatonin is pretty much going to go straight to your melatonin receptor and help your body release more melatonin on its own naturally. So you're not replacing it and you're not giving it, you're just helping the system produce it.
Yes. So if you are overdoing it, then that is when issues can come, because then maybe it's impacting something down the road. But if you're just helping it get to a point where we want it to be, I don't know if there's a melatonin peptide, so don't take this with take this with a grain of salt.
This is just an example.
Yeah, this is just an example so I can wrap my head around it. Then if you're taking the right dose, it shouldn't cause any issues. But everyone also is so individual, is what I'm hearing. So people are going to respond differently.
Yes. And a huge part of doing peptides safely right now is understanding where they're coming from and what their source is.
Yes.
So that's like so huge. So it shouldn't be something that you're just blindly buying from an influencer on Instagram, because there's a lot of people making a lot of money on these things too.
Well, and I think the feedback loop part is like so important, because just like doing one good thing for our body, like getting enough sleep, it's not just that you're sleeping good and you're not like having insomnia. It's impacting all of these other systems of the body. And so even though these things are just turning one key, they could be impacting a lot of different things. And I think that is really important to know and understand. And yeah, I know we're going to get into the foundations, but it's so hard not to like every... I'm just like, okay.
Just please, everybody, please keep listening.
Are we going to get into the influencer of it all? Or do we want to stay?
Well, kind of my next section is why is everyone suddenly talking about them? Because it definitely feels like they came out of nowhere. And if they've kind of always been like a part of how the body works and the body has always been making them, like why does it feel like 2 years ago nobody knew what this word was and now it's literally everywhere? And obviously the biggest reason is Ozempic. So when semaglutide, which is what is the GLP-1. So it doesn't matter. But when Ozempic went mainstream as a weight loss tool and got linked to celebrities, it kind of pulled the word peptide into a very public, very charged conversation about weight and appearance. And suddenly everyone was saying the word, but almost nobody knew what was explaining what it actually meant. And so the whole category just kind of got flattened into one story, which is like peptides equal weight loss drugs, equal too skinny, equal unhealthy, equal bad. And so, but to be honest, like the biohacking,
I don't know if it was equal bad.
For a lot of people, equal good.
Equal good.
Oh yeah. It depends on who you're talking to, I guess. Yeah. It's very different. But like the biohacking and the regenerative medicine world has been talking about peptides quietly for years before that. And like BPC 157, that's a huge one that has quite a lot of popularity right now. It was being used in healing and recovery circles long before Instagram got a hold of it. And I'm going to go individually into that one to just kind of talk more about the benefits of it. And then there's GHK-Cu, which has decades of skincare research behind it. And to be honest, it's probably in a lot of skincare that you guys are using. You've probably done peptides. A lot of people don't also understand that collagen is technically a peptide. So if you're taking it as a supplement, you have technically taken peptides.
Kira, down.
Just kidding.
Oh, Ellie's doing peptides.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's tons of research in GHK-Cu, and then like growth hormone peptides have been in sports medicine conversation for a very long time. So social media kind of just collapsed all of those things in like very different conversations into one word. And because the loudest version of that conversation was about Ozempic and fast weight loss, that became the lens everyone used, which is exactly the problem. Calling all peptides weight loss drugs is like calling all supplements like pre-workout. It's like, yes, it's technically the same category, but they're very different things. Right. And I wasn't going to touch on this, but this is just a good reminder that just the three of us probably know 5 to 10 wellness influencers that we could count, just top of mind, that have used weight loss peptides to promote a natural transformation on their Instagram and
sell their functional program with.
And sell their functional program. And so just be wary of that, but also just know that a lot of influencers are working with peptide brands that, and they're making a ton of money and kind of like selling these solutions that aren't really realistic. And again, we're going to get to the foundations, but peptides are supplemental. They are on a supplement category and they are not going to fix your shitty lifestyle. So we'll just touch on that again. But yeah, so now I kind of just want to go into 5 of the kind of like just peptides that were very different so that we can kind of get away of this like all peptides equal weight loss. And also, I think I haven't tried semaglutide or Ozempic, but I think I've also tried all of these besides that one. So I'm just going to talk about 5 individual. And my goal here with this next phase is just to explain what each one does in the body and what lock it fits and what system it turns on and what people are using it for. So these are not recommendations. These are just so you can understand what peptides are talking about and when their names come up. So yeah, starting with semaglutide, which is Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever you're choosing, whatever brand. But starting here, because this is the one everyone knows, and I think understanding it actually reframes the whole peptide conversation. And so here's what it does. After you eat, your gut naturally releases a hormone called GLP-1. GLP-1's job is to tell your brain you're full, to slow down how fast your stomach empties, and to help regulate your blood sugar. It is the body's natural, okay, you've eaten, we're good, signal. So semaglutide, which is a peptide, is a synthetic peptide that mimics that GLP-1. So it fits the same receptor lock, but it works longer and more powerfully than the version that your body makes naturally. And this is another one that your body naturally loses with age. It was originally developed for type 2 diabetes to help with or manage blood sugar. And then they actually realized that people were losing weight as a byproduct. And so the polarizing reputation, I think, when it yeah, literally, cha-ching. The polarizing reputation, I think, just comes from a few different reasons. One, there's like this cultural story around weight loss needing to be earned. And so anything that makes it feel easier gets called cheating. It also got associated with celebrities in a way that felt aesthetic rather than medical. And genuinely, a lot of that just comes down to not having lifestyle support alongside it. Semaglutide changes one signal, which is the fullness signal. It does not teach you how to eat. It doesn't protect muscle. It doesn't address why someone was struggling in the first place. So if you change one signal without changing anything else, and you might lose weight in a way that isn't actually healthy. And so the honest take, or my belief or honest take on Ozempic or semaglutide, is it is not magic and it is not evil, and its outcomes are almost entirely shaped by what else is happening in that person's life. So any questions on semaglutide?
I think the biggest thing,
Questions?
comments, concerns. I think the biggest thing for me where I get like so hung up on it is women that are, and men that are already thin and are like, oh, I just need it to lose my like last 5 pounds. It's like, okay, if it is that hard, if you're already in a thin body to lose that last 5 pounds, it's probably a sign you don't need to lose that last 5 pounds. And so it's just been taken so, I don't know if you guys saw, it's so sad on the last season of Real Mormon Wives, whatever.
Yeah.
That little tiny Layla was taking them. And it's just like, what are we doing as a society where this like tiny little girl feels like she needs to be taking these?
Yes, and that's like such a big part of what I struggle with, and it's just like we're so afraid of like things taking time and things taking work and things taking energy, and that we've really just like stepped away from that as a society and become this like quick fix all the time. And I think maybe it's even a shame that it's given peptides. This has been, unfortunately, the branding of them is like Ozempic and Wegovy, because it's just watching people like that just waste away because they have this idea of what women are supposed to look like and what women are. Even like some of the practitioners I follow, they've been posting about functional health for years, and then suddenly within the last 6 months they're like, I finally actually feel good. And I'm like, what the fuck? You've been feeling good for like 10 years as a functional practitioner, and now all of a sudden you actually feel good. It was just all a lie. I'm like, this is kind of blowing my mind. And it's because they did like a little tiny microdose of a GLP-1 and they got like fucking skinny. Like, let's be real, like they're getting skinny. They're not getting toned or like muscular or healthier as women. They're getting skinny. And like, I think that's something like we should probably do a whole podcast around. It's just like this mindset of women needing to be so skinny all the time. It's like,
it freaks me out for the younger like generation. But with all that being said, I also do believe, and I've always held this opinion, that these GLP-1s can be life-changing for some people if you truly can't figure it out. And I think some people, quite frankly, aren't willing to like do all the things and do all the work and to figure out like why weight loss is so hard. And at the end of the day, like having not a normal body fat percentage, but holding on to an extra 50, 60, 70, 80 pounds of weight is going to kill you. I think before taking Ozempic is going to kill you. And that's where it's like, this can be a really insane thing for people's overall health. And I don't give a shit if it's like, some people just won't do it that way. And like, that's just, we need to accept that as people that we struggle with that. And it's so much better for them to lose the weight. You know what I
think
mean? So
that,
it's
like,
so hard.
hit the nail on the head for why I push against it so hard is because like those difficult journeys that I've taken in life where I've taken the long route and like done things the slow and annoying and painful way have shaped me so much and made me so much of a better person in every single way. And yeah, I don't know why I like get so annoyed. Like not everyone's going to have the same journey in the same
it's not
life.
even, it's not going to get you anywhere because it's changing one thing in your body. And so it's like, just because you lost the weight, that doesn't mean that for the rest of your life, you're never going to struggle with your weight again. It means you're going to be right back where you were in 2 or 3 years, or you're going to be in a way worse position because you never came off of it. So it's like, it's not, you can't look at it as a quick fix because it's not, it might get you to where you want to go quick.
So you can move your body even though that
but it's
too,
not
you know?
gonna, but I like, in terms of like a different one, which I'm going to talk about this, but it's like BPC 157 can really accelerate the rate that our gut lining heals. And so it's like, okay, yeah, we could do a 3-month crazy supplement protocol and like hope our gut heals, or we can take a protocol of BPC 157 and heal our gut lining. We know that's exactly what we're impacting and it heals in 6 weeks. And so it's like if someone is super bloated
but
and
even
they can't
with that one, it's like if you have a high stress life and you're constantly having that cortisol
well, I
like
know,
damage your
Kira,
gut.
but it's not, I'm not saying you get, but it's like, you know what I mean? If you're in, you have to, you're not skipping over the foundations. You're still doing everything, but it's like, this can get you there faster and easier and less expensive. But it doesn't mean that you can't address your lifestyle, because then your gut lining is just like, you're fixing it, but you're not fixing the reason why it was off in the first place. Okay, and then the second one is Retatrutide. So this one is interesting because it really shows where the GLP-1 research is going. And just to recap, because I feel like there's a lot of words for the same thing. So Semaglutide is Ozempic or Wegovy or whatever, and it impacts your GLP-1 receptors. So GLP-1, Ozempic, Semaglutide, same thing, just a little bit different. So Retatrutide is, if Semaglutide, so Ozempic, fits 1 metabolic lock, Retatrutide actually fits 3 at the same time. So GLP-1, GIP, and then glucagon receptors all at once. And so it's like a key that opens multiple doors in the same hallway simultaneously. And so a lot of Retatrutide is still in very early clinical trials, but it shows like stronger metabolic effects than the Semaglutide, because where Semaglutide is only impacting GLP-1 and it's like only suppressing your appetite, this one also goes and helps you preserve muscle mass, and it also goes and supports blood sugar. So the reason that Ozempic kind of gets this bad name is because you lose muscle mass on it because it's not doing those receptors. It's only doing the one, where Reta is doing all 3. So it's actually like, I think it's going to be amazing for future, not that I even endorse it or think that people should do it for those reasons, but compared to Ozempic, it's like, this could be insane if people can figure out the lifestyle part of it.
I would way rather this be covered in traditional medicine than Ozempic.
Because there's so much in still early research, but looking into the effects on like fatty liver disease, heart health markers, and just like how quickly it can bring those things down. It's crazy. But what this really like helps me understand too is like this field is still moving so fast, and like what felt cutting edge 2 years ago is already being surpassed, and the pace is both like exciting and also a reason to stay humble, because long-term data does take time, and we are genuinely still in very, very early days of all of this. So it's just something to take into account, but that's Retatrutide. So those are kind of two, I would say, like Semaglutide is pretty much everyone knows what that is, Ozempic. Retatrutide is kind of like this new wave where it's like, if you're doing Ozempic and you really need to do it, you should probably do Retatrutide instead. But that is not me giving anyone medical advice. That's just like my circle of what I know from the bodybuilding world. It's a lot of better benefits to it than just semaglutide. Okay. Number 3, BPC 157. So BPC stands for the body protection compound. And this one I kind of find the most interesting just for like our community because it has really nothing to do with weight loss and it shifts the conversation away from that. But BPC 157 is a synthetic peptide modeled on a protective compound that naturally exists in your stomach lining. So your gut actually produces something, or BPC 157, something very similar as part of its own protective and healing response. And the therapeutic version, the peptide, is designed to fit receptors involved in tissue repair and healing. So it turns on the body's repair signals more directly. And so the interest around it started in like sports medicine and regenerative medicine and people using it for injury recovery. So like the research on it of it speeding up, like if someone tears a ligament or like a tendon, is crazy how much quicker it can accelerate that healing process. And it's also just really cool. And it also really helps bring down inflammation. And athletes and coaches have been talking about it like long before social media picked it up. And so more recently, it's kind of gone from like the injury recovery side of things and now into like this gut healing angle. And it's kind of become like a bigger part of the conversation with some research suggesting that it's going to help protect and repair the gut lining, which is obviously like relevant for anyone dealing with digestive issues or leaky gut or inflammation. And even with BPC 157 and a lot of these peptides, like the research, majority of it is still in animal models. So it's like, you just have to take that into account. Human trials are limited. There are some, but they're limited. And that also doesn't mean that the data isn't very, very promising. And when it comes to kind of like studies like this, it's more so understanding the mechanisms and how they work before we need a 20, 30, 50-year trial on them. If you actually understand biology, it makes sense that we will have the same response, but that's besides the point. It just means we still should hold these claims loosely and be honest about where the science is right now. But if you know how we roll, we don't usually wait for the science, but
Science.
but but what I love about this one for today's conversation is that it shows the peptide world was never just about weight loss, and a lot of the original interest actually came from like a completely different question. Can we support the body's own healing mechanisms more directly? Like that is a very different conversation. So thoughts around BPC 157?
I'm fine with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think same thing. I think it's just like at the end of the day, there isn't that long-term research. And some people that doesn't bother them. For me, it makes me pause for sure. And the problem is because the research isn't there yet, we aren't having them, and maybe we'll talk about this, developed in labs where there's like a lot of testing of it.
Yeah, this is the other whole part of it because it's kind of,
Like
we probably will never get there because the FDA doesn't want to improve them because they're too good, right? Like we're back in that, because really it's like the I don't know if that's the holistic's the right space, but it's very like Western medicine is against peptides. That's why they're not FDA approved. And that's why everyone's like, well, they're not FDA approved. And it's like, well, that's going to put fucking them out of business real quick. Yeah. So I don't know if we'll ever even get there, you know what I mean? But that's why it's always just important to do your own research. And yes, of course, there is no long-term studies on this, but welcome to the fucking club. Like, I don't know what else to say. And there's no long-term studies on anything. Like, so how long we're going to be waiting for that?
Does not have long-term studies.
Well, it's just anything in general. Like,
there's more studies on male pattern baldness than like anything in the world. It's like, no one gives a shit about male pattern fucking baldness. Like,
then there is on, well, that's an example for like endometriosis. There's like more research studies on male pattern balding and erectile dysfunction than there is on endometriosis. But that's okay, because where would we be without our men?
Where would we be without boners?
Yeah.
I can't.
Okay, GHK-Cu is the next one, also known as the copper peptide. This one lives at the kind of intersection of skin health, collagen, and longevity. And
I think
a lot
it's
of
in
you
my toner.
yeah, probably. A lot of you are probably already using a version of it without even realizing it. So GHK-Cu is a naturally occurring peptide that binds to copper, which is a mineral that your body needs. It is found naturally in your blood plasma. And here's kind of like that age piece again. Levels do drop significantly as you get older, and the research on it has been building quietly for like decades. Like GHK-Cu is nothing new in the skincare world. And that is why we start getting wrinkles and our collagen isn't quite where it is because of just age. There's not really like a root cause to that. That's just part of it. But if you've ever bought a skincare product with like copper peptides on the label or peptides, that is GHK-Cu. So you've already probably been using a version of a therapeutic peptide topically. And the skin health research on topical GHK-Cu is actually reasonably solid. It's pretty well proven, like there's not really arguing with it, but the systemic and longevity research is more emerging because it does also point to like cellular repair over time. But that's still like all emerging. But in terms of just collagen and like working with fine lines and things like that, that is not really anything to argue with, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
But again, just like another way to use peptides that's not necessarily for like fat loss or even recovery, but that cellular repair over time. So yeah, that's kind of interesting. But Jeb, have you like come across GHK-Cu or like does it? No, it's so interesting.
It interests me for sure. I haven't really like come across it at all. I always just hear about like the skin peptide.
Because
But
I
yeah,
even
it's
think like Hailey
fascinating.
Bieber's, actually I have it right here. These are like peptide lip glosses. So I'm like, I wonder what
Yeah.
peptide she puts
I never thought of it like that.
in it. But
I
yeah,
use all of her skincare and I freaking love it. I don't know if I've ever talked about that on here. It's like actually so good.
Okay, that
Like
inspires
the
me
ingredients
because
are good.
I think Healthier did it, and one of them might be not so great. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I
That's same
use
with
it.
Young Goose. She's like, this isn't actually the greatest, but I
Oh,
don't care.
really?
yeah, because she also
Interesting.
did Alex Earl's, and she said it was actually way better than she thought it was going to be. And there was like one
Mhm.
product that had like one ingredient that wasn't good. But I tried to order Alex Earl's, and I couldn't. You can't get it in Canada.
Oh,
Come
I
on,
didn't realize.
So maybe I'll
Alex.
try because I'm like I need like
Send this to us.
I know.
I do like the Road because I get like dry skin and I find it's like I just like a thick moisturizer. I don't like a thin moisturizer. And I love her barrier butter too.
Mm.
Okay,
So those
maybe
are
I'll
the two
try
things
it.
I use. You should. I don't know. It's good. I look into the ingredients yourself. I just kind of like got to a point where I was trying a bunch of different skincare things, but
Yeah.
I have one of my past clients reached out because it's really great. They're like looking into it for hair loss and like in women stuff.
I thought you meant Road. I was like,
oh,
what?
no, the peptide, the GHK-Cu. Is
Yeah.
that what it is?
It's kind of
That's
like the hair, skin, and
interesting.
nail peptide.
Yeah.
So it's
I
crazy
should call
because
it
you
the
see,
pretty peptide.
yeah, you see it
Not
on.
that you need it to be pretty. I'm also
No.
like kind of anti-aging right now, so I don't know where I stand on all of this.
Yeah, but I just feel like if I'm gonna not get Botox, like I don't need to lead that path. Like,
yeah,
I'm like,
I
can
kind of
just
feel like I do for some reason. I feel like
yeah, but
it'll be
Kira,
a fun statement to make.
You're also speaking from someone who has zero fucking wrinkles and you're 37
Yes.
years old.
True.
And I had wrinkles when I was like 18.
So that's like when
Yeah,
I'm like, well,
I
I
do
would never get my
wonder-
lips done. And I'm like, well, that's because I have big fucking lips. Like, yeah, it's
So
like hard for you to give an
true.
opinion when.
But I mean, there's
You know what I mean?
I'm not gonna get my lips done. I fucking want to, like, definitely. I'm like, oh damn, that would look good. But I don't know. Feel
No,
like
I
kinda
get it
just-
too. I
yeah.
just think that this is kind of like helping your body age gracefully.
But, like,
but
what-
this
yeah.
is so
Like, the
GHK-Cu.
facelifts are so different than like
No, I agree. I just think it's cool to like age.
Well, then
naturally,
what do you
which
take,
we've been
collagen?
told not to.
Do you take any
Mm.
supplements to help with how you
Yeah.
look? Okay.
Well,
so-
no, not like specifically to how I look. Everything for me is like how I feel, which translates to how I look. I guess
It's an interesting
maybe
conversation.
No, it is.
Yeah, because it's like, where do you
Yeah.
draw the line?
Needles.
Kira, where do you draw the fucking
Needles,
line?
that's fair.
needles. With needles, peptides. No, but super.
You can snort them though,
honestly,
right?
there is like nasal sprays.
No. Oh, I forgot
Versions.
about that. I didn't mean that. I do know that like that KPV one that I was talking about is usually in powder form and you just eat it. So I was like saying as a joke. I'm totally down to like snort some powder.
She's down to snort
peptide,
peptides,
but I'm not
needles
gonna
is where she
inject
draws
it.
the line. No, but GHK-Cu is, I'm on it. That's the only peptide I'm currently on. And it is something where you're supposed to rotate off of it. So you're supposed to do like, you've noticed the main benefits in like 12 weeks and then you take like 4 or 5 weeks off. And I don't
I'm
even know what
curious
week
about
I'm
it
on.
for
Like week 8.
eczema.
Yeah, I was kind of curious about that.
Because
too.
copper is like such a important mineral, like copper and zinc in the eczema conversation, that I wonder, like,
Mm-hmm.
be interesting to see how that all, like, okay,
Yeah.
Jake, bend over.
Give him like
But
the
yeah.
tiniest drop.
Interesting. So, okay. Then the last one it's actually 2, but they're often taken in conjunction with each other. So that's CJC1295 and Ipamorelin.
Mhm.
So
Okay, I knew you were going to say that.
this is definitely where things get a little more complex, but I want to just be like upfront about these two. And there are 2 peptides that are often used together because they both work on the same pathway, which is growth hormone signaling. And so, quick context background, your pituitary gland naturally produces growth hormone, which plays a role in muscle repair, fat metabolism, bone density, tissue healing, sleep quality. It peaks in your 20s and then it naturally declines with age, which again connects to that pattern we keep seeing. Some of what we experience as aging is actually just a gradual decline in the body's own signaling molecules. So I'm just going to call it CJC for the premise of this episode, for me not having to say it every time, but So CJC and Ipamorelin work by fitting the receptors that trigger growth hormone release, essentially turning up the signal for the body to produce more of its own growth hormone. So the intention is a more natural release pattern rather than directly injecting growth hormone itself, which is like a much stronger, more system-wide intervention. And the conversation around this combination usually focuses on sleep quality and recovery, muscle preservation, body composition, and just like general longevity goals. But what's important to understand about this is like growth hormone is connected, like deeply connected to a lot of other systems in the body. And so this is where a peptide starts to behave a little more like that master key rather than a precision one, because growth hormone touches many, many pathways and more is not always better here. And this is also like the clearest example of where providing an external signal over time can affect how much the body produces on its own, which is why this one deserves like the most context and supervision of everything that we kind of talked about today, because it's not as specific as targeted. So again, more risk, yes, more reward, but then there's more opportunity for side effects and blah, blah, blah. So really, I just wanted to include this one because it does kind of represent its own category, which is the recovery and the sleep and the anti-aging. And because it makes the point that the peptide world is genuinely very vast. And we have gone from like appetite signaling to gut healing to skin and collagen to like growth hormone. And these are not the same conversation. And anyone who tells you all peptides are magic or all peptides are dangerous is just not working with like the full picture. And I think like in the wellness world, especially online, it has a habit of like skipping over uncertainty and just going straight to the recommendation. And I don't like want to do that. And for several of the peptides that we talked about, the research is still emerging, like I said, and most of the studies are in very early human trials and are only done in animal models. And again, that doesn't make them useless. It just means that we should kind of like hold the claims with some looseness rather than treating them like settled silence. And it's like so hard for me to say this because on one part, I'm like, I do not think we need science, but it's more so like I'm happy and I experiment them with myself because I want to see how I feel and I want to see about the side impacts and I want to see how different dosages impact me, because in case one day we'd ever do start to include them, but I'm not going to sit here and recommend other people to do that. It's your body. And I just think everyone should have a real well understanding of what they're doing. And again, I'm going to get into the foundations, but it's just important that you do know that. And quality also, I touched on this earlier, but it matters in like so hugely in this space because peptides
Yes.
used outside of clinical pharmaceutical context can vary in a lot in purity and potency depending on where you get them from. And this is not an area where sourcing is like this small detail that we overlook. It genuinely is going to affect what you're actually getting. And so it is so important that you are not just blindly trusting an influencer to give you theirs because you have no idea where that's coming from. And it is the amount of hoops me and Zach had to jump through because Jensen mentioned Zach's on peptides. He's on peptides to help with fertility. Like it was a whole fucking ordeal thing to get those. Like it was not easy. It was not just messaging the first person I seen on Instagram. And social media has just really like flattened this conversation. So someone's before and after photo is not clinical evidence and their personal experience is all obviously like real and valid, but it's still not the same thing as like a controlled study. And the wellness industry has like a long track record of just like outrunning the research and people end up hurt or disappointed when it doesn't match the hype. And so again, none of this means that peptides aren't worth understanding or worth being curious about. But I think like genuine curiosity with honest questions and not just enthusiasm is like really good and a healthy part of this discussion. And so now we're going to finish off with probably the most important part. And it's not really about peptides at all, but I also just want to preface this because I realize you're like, is Lacey taking peptides? Is she on peptides? She did an episode a couple of weeks ago where she was doing peptides and now she's not. And a huge part of our business is based off of my personal transformation and my journey. So one, I want to make things very clear that I have been maintaining the same weight for 2 years now. And I tried and did my first peptide about 4 months ago. So my transformation was well before all of this. Second reason I chose to do peptides is my foundations have been locked in for about most of them 5+ years and some of them 15+ years. So I am not trying to outwork a bad diet. I'm not trying to overcompensate for being lazy or for eating bad food. I am doing actually everything right. That's not just a belief that I hold, but I am. And honestly, I did it more for
Research and development.
Research purposes on just I was curious. I wanted to see how I felt and like what changes I noticed. And I've also always kind of had that approach with anything in health and wellness. I've always had an open mind and I always just like to try things to see how I feel because at the end of the day, every person's body is very, very, very different. And what makes someone feel amazing is going to not make the next person feel amazing. And what makes one person feel like shit is going to make the next person feel amazing. And so it's why I've been raw vegan. I've done carnivore. I have done all of the things and I genuinely just am curious. And I think with peptides becoming like this very emerging popular topic, I wanted to have my own experience that I could speak from. And if we ever get to the point where we are recommending like the healing peptides in our program, I want to know how they feel because I don't ever want to recommend someone to something that I have never personally done. And that's just like a belief system that I have. My also intention with them was never to lose weight, and I don't need to lose weight and I don't want to lose weight. I'm trying to have a baby. I'm trying to do the opposite. And so when I tried Retatrutide and I did one thing and my appetite disappeared, like I stopped it. That was not my goal. My goal with that is I've always struggled with blood sugar. I've also always had a slightly higher blood sugar than I would like it. And so I wanted to see if it would help that pathway because I am doing all of the foundational things that I am about to talk about. But yeah, I don't want to get like lumped into this, like, oh, I'm hiding this peptide journey from people, but I hesitate to talk about it because I'm not an expert and I'm not telling people to take peptides. I'm just literally sharing my own journey. But yeah, there's gets to be like blurry lines. And again, I think people just have like a misunderstanding where you're either like in the functional space and you're really against them or you're doing them and you're hiding it because you believe that you should be against them. And I've just always really tried to stay honest and have integrity because that's the only way that I don't have anxiety. And so I'm not like, even if I felt like, oh, they're slightly out of alignment with what we promote. One, I don't actually believe that, and that is my belief. And two, I'm not going to just do it and hide it and not share with my community or our clients or with the people that follow me on Instagram. So did that sum it up?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So no compound, no supplement, no peptide, no medication consistently works long-term in a body that isn't sleeping or isn't eating properly or isn't moving. And I have never, ever, ever seen in the 15 years I've been in this space, anything override what chronic stress does to hormones and metabolism. I have never seen fat loss stick when someone's blood sugar is dysregulated every single day from what they're eating. I have never seen gut healing happen sustainably when someone's nervous system is stuck in survival mode. And so sleep, food, movement, stress regulation, minerals, this is your foundation. And no like perfect precision key or whatever, no matter how well targeted, will compensate for a foundation that is not there. So you can send the most perfect signal through the most specific receptor. And if the body it's landing in is running on empty and is depleted and is overwhelmed, the message will get lost. And so I think
Well, and even like if you don't have the ability or the core foundation to then act out that thing that you're telling the peptide to tell your body to do, it's like you don't even have the shit to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And
Yeah,
so
God.
I think peptides, more than almost any other wellness trend right now, have the potential to pull people away from their foundations, because when something creates a noticeable effect, appetite changes, recovery improves, skin looks different, you're feeling good, it can feel like you found the answer and the magic key. And the risk is that you stop asking the deeper questions. Why am I feeling like this? Why am I doing this? And so I think a peptide is potentially a tool that layers on top of a healthy foundation. It is not the foundation itself. And if someone asks me whether they should try peptides, my honest first response will always be, how is your sleep? How is your stress? What does your nutrition actually look like? Because if those answers are shaky, then this is where the conversation starts. It doesn't start with peptides.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah, I have seen some practitioners that are like, I'm so sick of other coaches saying that you need the foundations in place before you start peptides. It's like some people literally don't have the capacity or the ability to get the foundations in place until they get on a peptide to like quiet the noise. And then I was like, oh, fuck. So I'm curious, like your guys' take on that.
I think it goes to what I was saying about the Ozempic earlier. If you are too overweight and the food noise is like, no, not even the food noise, because the food noise, we've all experienced it. It can be fixed with lifestyle changes. I will die on that hill.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are so overweight, and this is like more a weight loss conversation, because I'm assuming that's what those practitioners are talking about. If you're so overweight, you cannot move your body. You can barely get out of bed. You are huffing and puffing going up 4 stairs. I agree. I think, and like you can't sleep because your sleep apnea is so bad. And like you're doing the things, you just need the help to like continue to do the things or do the things better. Then yeah, I agree. But if you're like, oh, my food noise is bad, I cannot do the foundations. Well, that's part of the foundations is going to improve your food noise. And so the food noise conversation just annoys me. And it's simply because I've experienced it like to full effect. And you might not think so because I'm not like 50 pounds overweight, but like it has been a huge, huge, huge part of my life. And part of the reason we talked about this in, I would have been last week's episode, I have a metabolic syndrome, PCOS, is because that food noise resulted in like chronic binge eating every single night, and not just like an extra bowl of cereal, like a full fucking box of cereal or a full fucking box of cookies. So don't tell me I don't know what food noise is.
Yeah.
And the main thing that fixed that is eating to balance my blood sugar and eating more food. So don't tell me like my food noise doesn't let me do those things, because you probably haven't done the right things to fix your food noise, unfortunately.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
And
you.
I think too, even from like a different perspective, because I think that that could actually be true in some cases. Like what I'm thinking is like when people come in and their gut is so mess that they can't eat and they can't even drink water. And so it's like, okay, let's try so we can accelerate that. But that's where it just becomes, you have to be so honest with yourself. And it's like, sure, you're too dysregulated or too messed up to be able to do the foundational thing. So you need this to accelerate that process so that you can feel better. That's not the problem. The problem is what you choose to do when you can actually do the foundations. Yes. Can you actually implement them? Because yes, it can be technically a shortcut, but you're never going to shortcut your way out of having a no foundational build, right? And so it's like, you just have to be honest with yourself and like, are you actually going to do the foundations when you can handle them? Or are you just going to ride this wave of like, I'm feeling better, I'm looking better. And then in 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years down the line, your body's messed because you didn't do the foundations. And so I think that there might be a case where it's like that could maybe be arguably true. I think saying it on social media and like encouraging that from the masses is probably not the angle that we will ever want to take. And foundations are the most important thing. But yeah, I just think it's like, it's up to you at the end of the day. And you just have to know there's no fucking way around it. Like, you're an adult, you're part of the human race. And part of that means you have to eat and sleep and drink water and move your body. And it's like, there is never, and there never, ever, ever, ever will be a shortcut for that. And if you want to live a long, healthy life where you don't have to continue to do all of these crazy things and you just want to maintain, you maintain on the foundations. Like, it's anyways.
Yeah, get good at them.
Yeah. Let me wrap this up. So if you take one thing from today, let it be this. A peptide is not a category. It is a mechanism. It is a precision key that fits inside a specific lock and turns on a specific system and works within a language your body already speaks. Some peptides your body already makes naturally. Some are synthetic versions designed to do the same job. All of them are more targeted than supplements and less system-wide than steroids, and sitting in a space that is genuinely evolving so fast, you guys. And they are not endocrine disruptors because they work with the body's existing systems through an intentional controlled signal, not an accidental chemical intrusion that the body can't process or clear. They are not steroids because they're not flooding the whole entire system with a master key. And they are not just supplements because they're not stocking shelves. They're sending specific instructions. And so they are their own thing and they deserve to be understood on their own terms. And I think that they represent something bigger happening in healthcare and health right now. And it is like a slow shift from medicine that mostly suppresses symptoms to people asking like deeper questions about signaling and repair and recovery and root cause health. And that shift isn't perfect and it isn't without risk, but the questions underneath it, I think, are the right ones, which I think is really cool. And I would rather our community be asking them with real understanding instead of like reacting to them from fear or from hype. And so if you're curious about any of these for yourself, get educated first, find a functional practitioner who actually understands functional health and can give you context, and don't source anything from internet without serious research, and check in with your foundations before you ask whether a compound is the missing piece, because for most people, the missing piece is a lot simpler than a peptide. Any final thoughts?
No.
I think everyone just, like, people are going to listen to this and get really excited about it. And sometimes when we get really excited about things, we make decisions. And hopefully we did a good job at reminding everyone of the foundations over and over and over again. But also when we get excited, that's, I feel like, when you're going to end up just like seeing an influencer post this like peptide she's taking and go to that website. But just to reiterate what Lacey said, we do not know what is going on in these labs. We don't know what these labs are putting into some of these compounds. And not everybody is going to respond well to different compounds. And that doesn't mean you shouldn't try them. But if your body's giving you signals that you are that person that isn't responding well, like Lacey not having an appetite after one dose of Retta, then you have to listen to those signals, even if it means you're not getting the shortcut that you might be looking for, or that last final piece, because it just might not be for you, or it might be the best thing and it like ties a bow on everything else you're doing.
And it's not a shortcut. Like there is no fucking shortcuts. So
No.
you just have to like really understand that. And yeah, like Jensen said, it is definitely something I would not be navigating alone. It is not something that I would be navigating without a lot of understanding, because even just how you have to constitute them properly so that you have the right dose in your bottle, it's a whole thing. It's like a whole big math equation that has to be perfect. And like dosing, they don't know because it's not done on humans. Like there's very, very small clinical trials. And so you don't know what the proper dose is for you. And like I did what is considered a microdose of Retta, and it rocked me. And I have friends who are doing triple what I do and don't feel a thing. And so it's so different. And so it's like, I don't even want to give recommendations on where to start with dosing. So I'm not going to, but it's not something that you should be blindly doing. Just like you shouldn't be blindly taking supplements you don't know your body needs, just like you shouldn't be doing it. And so it's exciting. And I think we're going in the right direction. And I think there is going to be really great research when it happens. But at the end of the day, it's not something that we can take forever. And we can it's now the easy button to life. It's can support different things, but also so does eating to balance your blood sugar and eating real food and exercising your body. And you can still totally do it that way and it will work. So we don't need peptides to have a transformation, but they, I think, can be like an accelerated tool if they're done properly and you have the foundations in place.
Love it.
Anyways, that was a long episode. Okay, team. Well, thanks for tuning in to this week's episode. As always, we are always open to feedback. If you have any questions, please reach out to any of us. We might redirect you to somebody else because, again, this is not necessarily our wheelhouse or something we feel strongly in even recommending to our own clients yet because the research is still so evolving. But if you do have questions, we have a general knowledge and would love to point you in the right direction.
Which is the root cause reset.
Baby. Start there. But yeah, if you like this episode, share it with a friend, maybe share it with someone who is experimenting with peptides that you know needs to have a better understanding of them, or people who don't know anything. We'll take either, to be honest. We're not picky.
Or people who are extremely against them. Because my goal was to open your mind a little bit and...
Yeah, you moved my needle, I will say.
And that was my goal.
Keyword
because I will say that on our previous episode, we started talking about peptides and Kira said she would never do them. And so I was like, I'm going to open her mind that perhaps if she sprayed a ligament and had to be in a cast for 16 weeks, that she might take BBC 157. No, I'm just kidding. But anyways.
Or she might learn to rest and slow down.
Yes. Or she may take the long route.
So true.
Who knows? So ring the bell, do the thing, subscribe. You guys know the drill. Okay, bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to The Wellness Effect. We're so grateful to be part of your wellness journey. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and follow us on Instagram. We'll put all of our handles in the show notes. If you have questions or ideas, slide into our DMs or send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep creating your own wellness effect.